Hi everyone, I'm Camille Miller from the Natural Life Business Partnership, and you are joining us today on nlbp-tv. We're doing a member spotlight with Annmarie Cantrell of Cucina-Verde out of Bucks County, PA. Welcome, Annmarie, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Annmarie is a wellness educator and chef. And she's going to tell us a little bit about her business and what she does out in Pennsylvania. I should also mention that Annmarie is one of our regional ambassadors out in West Reading, PA, right? That's also in Berks County?
In Berks County, yep.
In Berks County, okay. So if you ever join us there, you'll be able to meet her as well. So Annmarie, tell us a little bit about you and your business and what you have going on.
Yeah. So like you said, I kind of consider myself more like this wellness educator and a chef. So for the chef side, I have a small retail food business. So I make sauerkraut, and I sell that mostly directly through farmers markets, do some wholesale, but that's a growing business, which I really love because, you know, part of the wellness piece is getting to connect with people and teaching them about fermented foods and, you know, what they do for the body and how to use them in their diet. I also work as a private chef for a small number of clients, so I'll go into homes once a week and just prepare food, you know, for a family. And then a lot of the work that I do that is really my driving force actually is working with families with kids with autism. And helping families do more of the dietary and environmental interventions for their kids so that their kids can just feel better, you know, be healthier, be able to engage in activities, be able to engage with their therapies. So it's just really kind of guiding the families through, you know, what's happening in their children's bodies and how we can like kind of alleviate that and get really nourishing food in, and then also change the environment so that they're not so bombarded with, you know, things in their environment all the time. So I'm trying to grow that piece more and more.
Are you working one-on-one with the kids or the families as a whole? Are you going into their homes and teaching them how to cook healthy meals all together as a family?
Yeah, so I go into the homes and then working with the family, and really it's become like, I worked as an early intervention teacher for 20 years. So I have a huge background in autism, and so I love working with the kids, but doing this piece, it's really more with the families and kind of changing that whole family paradigm around what food looks like and what meal times look like, not just for that child with autism, but really for the whole family, you know, and how to get on this, I guess more helpful way of eating, you know, and then also working specifically with the family for that one child, because kids with autism have so many different issues. They're picky eaters, they're not going to eat, they tantrum. So it's, you know, kind of helping them navigate meal times with their kids. So
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about your sauerkraut business. So for those that don't understand the health benefits of fermented food, the difference between just having things fermented with vinegar.
Yeah,
because I know it's a whole different type of process and how it helps the microbiome.
Yeah, it's a very traditional process, and it's just called lactose fermentation, and it's just the process of, you know, basically having cabbage or vegetables and salt. You know, and the salt breaks down the cellulose in the cabbage and releases all of the sugar, and actually vegetables are full of lactobacillus bacteria. That's where the lactose fermentation comes from. It has nothing to do with dairy. And, you know, given the vegetables, the salt, the right temperature, and a little bit of time, this whole alchemy kind of happens where the beneficial bacteria just proliferate, you know, in the sauerkraut. So at the end of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long you let your sauerkraut sit, you have this really probiotic rich food that's also rich in digestive enzymes. And the cabbages change, so you have an increase in the amount of vitamins and minerals that are present in the vegetables that wouldn't normally be present without them being fermented. So you have this, you know, tangy, sour end product that is just great to have as a condiment with meals. Like we put them over fried eggs. use them in sandwich wraps, and you just eat, you know, a couple of tablespoons a day to help you digest your meals. And yeah, they're fabulous. And it's funny to me because now, like, it's such a new big trend. You know, people are like, oh, kombucha and sauerkraut and your microbiome, and people are like, oh, I got to do this. And it's such a, you know, we've been doing it for thousands and thousands of years because it was the way to preserve food. But now that we know all of the health benefits,
Right.
you know, this big thing that people need to get their hands on. So it's been fun. It's been a journey. You know, I find people who are like, oh, I hate sauerkraut. I grew up with it. I'm never going to eat that stuff. Or, hey, I really love sauerkraut. You know, it's kind of like cilantro. People either love it or hate it.
That's true. So why just sauerkraut? Do you ferment other foods or just?
I do. So I do a whole range. So I have about 6 varieties of different sauerkrauts. So I don't make just a plain cabbage and salt because I personally don't like just plain sauerkraut. So I add a lot of things to it. Like I have a variety called 3D that has dandelion greens and daikon and dulse, and I do Latin American krauts, kimchis, and then I also just put vegetables in a brine. So I'll do brined carrots, which are similar to pickles, or brined cauliflower and peppers, and like an Italian antipasto, like a giardiniera, I don't know, that I ate, you know, growing up. So making that, you know, fermented without all the vinegar. So yeah, there's a full line of stuff that I do.
And you're producing these only for farmers markets? Can people find them in small specialty shops out by you, or?
I'm in the process of doing wholesale, and then right now I have people can order them online for me too. I will ship.
Oh, how wonderful. That's terrific to know.
Yeah.
Great. And let's talk a little bit about the private chef part. How did you get started in all of this?
Okay. So I was teaching. I taught early intervention for about 20 years, and about 20 years ago, I got really sick. And it was one of those things, like, doctors could not tell me what was going on, and I would go in with all these symptoms, and they're like, oh, your blood tests are coming back fine, you know, you look normal. And the only answer that they had for me was basically for me to take some psychiatric meds, because they're like, you must be under a lot of stress, and maybe this will just help take the edge off. And I was so insulted, you know, I mean, because I had all of these physical symptoms. I dropped 20 pounds. I was, you know, breaking out in hives. And I had psychological symptoms too, like increased anxiety, depression, and like nothing in my environment had really changed to cause, you know, all of those issues. So I ended up finding an integrative medicine doctor in Philadelphia who told me, oh, this is so easy. You just have a systemic yeast infection in your body that's crossed your blood-brain barrier, and that's why you're getting depression and anxiety, and your hormones are way out of whack, and you have a bunch of food sensitivities. So let's just do an elimination diet and, you know, go home and cut out all wheat, corn, soy, dairy, and sugar. I was like,
everything. Yeah.
You know, and pretty much those were the staples of my diet, you know. But I thought, wow, you know, if I don't need to go on pharmaceuticals, you know, and this is something that I can change myself, I'm willing, you know, to give it a chance. And this was 22 years ago, so there was really no such thing as gluten-free.
Right.
So I kind of had to figure that all out, you know, on my own. And I did, you know, slowly but surely. And every year I learned a little bit more and got a little bit more healthy. And in 2001, ended up going to a program up in New York City called the Natural Gourmet Institute for Health and Culinary Arts, Annmarie Colbin's program, which was really a very nutritionally based culinary school. So learned a lot about the nutrition piece, and then also how to prepare food, which was amazing. And then that's also where I got introduced to the Weston Price Foundation, and you know, really resonated with everything that the foundation brought forward about, you know, real food and things like that. So became a chapter leader in this area and really just started to regain my health. But what I noticed was I was still working in early intervention at the time, and when I was working with these kids, I actually had gone back to some classroom teaching. So I was working with kids who were like 3 to 5 years old. And, you know, we would give them snacks, which the, you know, school paid for. So it was like Twizzlers or Chips Ahoy cookies or something ridiculous, right? But I would notice about 20 minutes after they ate, you know, I would see all these symptoms popping up, and their symptoms were so similar to the things that I was experiencing because I was having these food sensitivities, you know, that were going undiagnosed for so long. And it just fascinated me. And I thought, wow, they look just like I do. So why are, we putting these kids in timeout for something that they have no control over? Their body, like they are trying to tell us something. So then I really started to study all the biomedical interventions for autism and, looking at autism more as this immune dysfunction, and how do we use food and environmental changes to just help heal these kids' brains and their guts. So then that's how I started that. And so I got into private cooking right after I got out of cooking school, just because I really loved it and wanted to do that. And then it took me a long time to get to the point where I am now in terms of working with the kids. And I basically just got so fed up in the system, where it's like you couldn't say anything to families about what they were eating, and I thought, well, I'm going to get fired from my job. So I might as well quit before, I get fired. So I just left that job, and now I'm going in through, myself and just going in on the other end.
Okay. So do you work with all types of, it sounds like you have a background in all types of, I wouldn't say therapy for children, but if they're having like attention deficit disorders or not poor sleeping cycles, I see with sugar, that sort of thing, is that something that people can call on for you? Is that something you deal with, or do you stay with your one area?
No, I mean, I pretty much do, the full gamut of it all. So I'll work with kids with ADD, just variant learning problems, behavior issues, sensory processing issues,
okay.
To autism, to Asperger's. And the older the children are, the more I'll actually work with the kids around the food. We'll cook together, they'll learn things. I ran a program 2 summers ago that I'm going to be running again here in Berks County this summer, which was called Eat, Play, Farm. And so it was for kids who were very picky eaters. So either a picky eater or a child on the spectrum or with sensory issues, where they would come to me and the parents would come and we would just play with food. And we would do farming, they would seed, they would harvest, we would do art activities just to get, those sensory experiences around the food, get them to touch it, smell it, feel it. If they tasted it, that was a huge perk, but the program really wasn't about eating. It was just around, introducing kids to this, which also introduces parents to it as well.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Big field too. It's kind of interesting that we're having this, because I was recently looking for an integrative physician that understood that food was the basis of mental health and psychology and some of those therapies. Because I have a kid in therapy, I was like, I really think it's her diet. And the therapist's like, no, diet has nothing to do with it. I was like, okay, I need someone who thinks like me.
Right.
And it's actually hard to find in our actual medical system.
Yeah.
Doctors that get that understand that it's such an important piece of everything that's going on today with kids, I think. And you look at the school food system.
Yeah.
Is just, it's a pizza and a side of fries with a soda.
Exactly.
That's lunch.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find. Both of the kids that I have in high school have come home just saying, Mom, we can't even eat at school. Like even in an emergency, there's no good choice.
Yeah.
Of food.
Yeah, it's like, how do you expect kids to function like that?
Yeah.
And then get up so early, right? To be at school so early, get on the bus so early. They're not sleeping, they're not eating. Yeah.
So are you able to work with families or children at a distance? Do you do anything through Skype, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I do things through Skype. So basically, the program is very individual for everybody, but to be able to do distance, it's just kind of this, having conversations about, what you can start to do. And for me, doing this kind of work, it's always about baby steps. Because I find, you want to do it all and then you hit a wall and you're going through the drive-through again by the next week because it's just
exactly.
So it has to be baby steps for the child and for the family. And so, working in a distance, it's just, here's the first thing that you can do. Go home, try this, do this for a week. Let's connect back, see how you made out, see if you noticed any changes, and then we'll add on, so it's very kind of incremental. And that way, families start to see successes too.
I'm just curious, what's the first thing that you eliminate from, like, say it's a teenager, and
So,
Just say,
I'm on this big GMO glyphosate kick,
yeah,
which is really hard. So maybe that's not my first step because the glyphosate issue is so ubiquitous. It's pretty much in everything. But for that, it's, like I think chemical dyes, high fructose corn syrup, those things, like the really blaring things are the first things
yeah,
to come out.
right. And do you find, I'm just curious now, do you find that people have withdrawal symptoms?
Yeah, so the interesting thing that happens, particularly for kids with autism that I'll work with is, and this happened to me too, and that's how I understood it,
Mm-hmm.
is, if you're pulling a food out like sugar,
Yeah.
The symptoms and the behaviors are going to exponentially increase for a number of days until that sugar leaves your system. So the way I see it happening, because when I was going through all of this and my doctor told me to cut all, wheat, sugar, and dairy out, I was like, you don't understand. Like, I ate Frosted Flakes for breakfast and I haven't had them in 15 years. But it's because the body, like my body, was so full of these pathogens that were just craving sugar. And so when I fed it, then I was plateaued and I felt better until the next craving came. So it's kind of like that. These pathogens are so loud, and they're really craving this. So if you're not feeding them, they're going to escalate. So you'll see like a child's behavior really start to escalate for a while too, until you can get past that and start putting the nourishing food in that's really going to start to heal.
Is there anything like a sugar withdrawal? Is there anything that makes that better? Like if someone's withdrawing from a drug, you can give them something else to help that. Is there anything that replaces sugar, or it just literally has to be like a cold turkey kind of?
So that's another one of the baby step things that I'll do. So it's kind of like looking at what they're eating. So if there's high fructose corn syrup or any of the artificial sweeteners, absolutely those come out,
Mm-hmm.
If there's like beet sugar in something because that's GMO, that'll come out,
Right.
And then it's like, okay, get rid of those things first, and then we'll go through another one. And then maybe you'll get rid of all white sugar and just do a little bit of maple and a little bit of honey for a while and see how that does. So again, it's, these steps.
Baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that would also get people reading labels.
Absolutely.
You never thought it was, as I was coming off of gluten, I was shocked at what gluten was in.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Like, and then I would read labels like, I never knew that. It was in everything. It was like corn. I had an allergy to corn that I found out many years ago, and I had no idea that corn was in like everything. And I'm healthy.
Yeah.
But it's just thrown in everywhere.
It is, and that's really where the conversations start with me, with families, and with the farm work that you've done. Like, that's really the first conversation, is that farming in this country is so out of control that these are the subset of foods that we're being fed, and these are the issues with them. And so we need to expand outside of that. So, really getting people to understand that there's more than just, wheat, corn, and sugar and soy and canola.
Yeah. And recently I've been reading articles just about the pesticides and the herbicides that are soaked into these wheats and the corns and the monocrop. That's also so disruptive, which of course from my back work, I know about the glyphosate and all of that, how disruptive it is. But seeing that there might actually be an allergy on top of that.
Exactly.
Like we think it's corn, we think it's wheat, but it could be all of this stuff.
Exactly.
As well, that's just saturated in it.
In
our everyday diet.
Yeah. So how do you clean out the body, and with the work that I do, like I like to work with a lot of integrative physicians. So I'm not like a clinical nutritionist, so I won't go out and recommend like, well, you should go on this supplement for that, so they're going to be working with a medical professional, but I'm really just going to be working on that food piece and helping them navigate all of that and having conversations with their medical team, but it's really helpful for somebody to have a medical team so that they can understand like, well, my child isn't detoxing properly, so even though I'm pulling this sugar out, there's still all this stuff that's stuck in there that's not getting out, so it's up to those medical professionals to help open up those detox pathways well, we're considerably nourishing with the food, and then I can do the food piece that's going to help open up
Right.
them.
Wow. Good stuff.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Anything else we want to add about your business, your background before we wrap up?
You know, I feel like I'm going through this period of transition a little bit too. So I feel like I'm doing less private cooking work and more of like the work with the kids. But for me, what it really comes down to is opening up a space for people to be able to come and connect with the land and just put their phones aside, you know, put their computers away, just come sit on the land, get connected. Because I feel like at the core, with all the issues that we're seeing with kids being so sick and us with food allergies, and we're so busy that we're not really conscious. We're so disconnected from food and where our food comes from. So for me, it's like, how do we go back and really allow people a safe space to reconnect with the land, with the plants, with their bodies, with their intuitions. So that's a lot of where my work is going now.
Excellent. So if people want to get in touch with you after this, how do they do that?
Yeah, so my website is www.cucina-verde, so it's cucina-verde.com. Phone number 215-499-8105.
Excellent. And I guess they can find your sauerkraut. Oh, well, I guess they can find that online, right? On your
Right, if you go online, I actually have a subscription for sauerkraut, and you can order through a subscription, or you can just email me and say, hey, can you, mail me out a couple of sample jars? I'm happy to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for being a part of our member spotlight today.
Thank you.
If anyone is watching this later, which actually you all are, any information from Annmarie will be in our show notes below, and we will also link to her website, so you'll be able to find her there, and hopefully you'll reach out and ask her some questions. Thank you, Annmarie.